Today is part of a series about unlocking the future of healthcare. This is where we learn more about artificial intelligence, intelligent automation, and real-time data, and learn about how they're actually reshaping patient care. We have to admit at the moment that healthcare is at a tipping point. Costs are spiraling, funds are rapidly falling, patient outcomes are threatened like never before, and the sheer scale of pressure on healthcare services that means that meaningful change is impossible to achieve logistically and financially by people alone. Recently, we have seen the emergence of AI, real-time data analytics and automation technology, which has low investment profiles, high returns, and short implementation life cycles. Today, we're going to talk about each and how each can help deliver better patient outcomes. I'm Kieran, I'm an author, I'm an expert with 30 years experience, and today I am joined by a group of eminent experts and practitioners, and their passion makes a real difference for healthcare. Let me introduce you to our three exceptional panelists. John Sheehan, a consultant radiologist, clinical director and advisor to healthcare organizations globally. John Kutay, a director of product management, AI and data expert from Striim. And Jack Corbell, a senior automation consultant at Virtual Operations. Welcome, chaps, to today's panel. Alrighty, folks, let's waste no time. Let's dive into today's session. John Sheehan, if you don't mind, sir, let's set the scene for the audience today. What is the prize on offer to healthcare providers seeking to leverage AI, intelligent automation, and real-time insights?
Thanks very much, Kieran. I think it's important to kind of frame it that we're currently at a pivotal moment in healthcare where the digital revolution is really transforming the way we approach health and wellness. This explosion of healthcare data is completely unprecedented. Approximately 30% of the world's data volume is being generated by the healthcare industry alone. And within this data, it's a huge treasure trove of insights that can lead to much more proactive and personalized care. And this sheer volume and complexity of this data presents really significant challenges for people like myself at the coalface. We're tasked by interpreting, overwhelming amounts of unstructured healthcare data, which constitutes about 80% of all of the world's healthcare data. And it's not just about the actual volume, but it's also the velocity that it's actually coming at us. And it's increasing exponentially. And also the variety and multimodal element of that data in real time is making it difficult for us clinicians to actually make timely but also accurate decisions. The consequences of this data overload is really breaking something that's absolutely critical, and that's the decision link. And the decision link is actually where you link up data with actually actions and outcomes. And that whole decision-making process is critical. And that's what people like healthcare workers do on a daily basis. If we're experiencing stress with, 100% of clinicians experiencing pressure, and the majority of us involved in high stakes healthcare, it's only going to lead to problems. And it's compounded, I think, by the legacy IT systems that we have in place that are often so ill-equipped to manage the data effectively. And it's leading, unfortunately, to diagnostic errors and declining outcomes. I think, moreover, the current approach to integrating AI solutions, while it is very important that these are latched on, but to the legacy systems, it's not really resolving the core issues. And it may actually, in fact, be contributing to data silos requiring more significant time and facility investment from IT staff. So what it's leading to is a doom loop where you're getting poor investments that they're not only failing to solve the problems, but they're actually potentially making the problems worse. To address these challenges, we need to really shift how we actually approach things. And if I reflect on something that I'm very fond of, and that's Apple, they really approach things with a human-centered approach for decision augmentation. That's helping us to make proper decisions. And they go back to their first principles, and it's people-first designs that solve these fundamental problems that we're experiencing. And they employ system-level thinking for really global optimization across an enterprise. I think if we can design these foundational user experiences that power both me, the physician, and our patients, it'll really boost the efficiency of our decisions and foster, continuous learning. What we need is a complete pivot and transition into actually how we do things, and it's really to have much more of an interactive 3D flowing dashboard of experiences and connected to the AI-enabled cloud that really mend this decision-making process that, as I described, has collapsed. And it's kind of akin to Google Maps Street Views, where we can actually see around us in a very clear manner and see the best routes to actually solve a certain problem for a specific patient. And I think that dashboard model is important, and particularly now that we're increasing with all of this multimodal biomedical information that's flowing at us. So I think if we can create a flywheel that generates all of these new capabilities to improve the outcomes and address these challenges that are pressing upon us as physicians who are overloaded and not enjoying making diagnostic errors. So I think, kind of to answer the initial outlook of this webinar, I think healthcare data is exploding. We all know that, but within that there's an opportunity and there's also a challenge. I think if we can try and embrace human-centered design thinking and leverage the power of AI, whereby we can actually transform actionable insights from all of that data to really have much better decision making and improve patient care. And really, it's about time we need to move beyond the limitations of the legacy systems that we're so encumbered with and invest in solutions that really truly meet the needs of healthcare providers and, most important, our patients. So that's kind of just an overall overview, Kieran. I hope that gives some perspective.
John Kutay, if you wouldn't mind coming to you, sir, let's start perhaps to explain what we mean by leveraging AI and real-time insights to transform patient care. Bring it to life for us, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Hospitals and healthcare service providers have all types of data generated from their operational systems, clinical supply chain inventory, electronic health records, billings and claims data, lab data. In its raw form, it's not particularly usable by all the healthcare service providers. And when we really talk about having AI generated insights and data generated insights, reports, analytics, et cetera, what we really mean is empowering the care providers with this data to action it in a way that allows them to provide better care for patients, optimize parts of workforce operations, integrated revenue cycle management systems so that things are streamlined. And ultimately, this leads to more efficiencies within the healthcare service provider, where they're able to do more productivity for less underlying strain on their workforce, and ultimately provide better care experiences for their patients, and at the end of the day, save more lives.
Jack, I'm going to come to you if you don't mind. The healthcare industries and the technology industries are huge, but sometimes they can feel like opposites, cold, hard silicon versus caring people and caring businesses. Are they a marriage made in heaven, or are they too opposite to be allies or friends of each other?
That is a good question, because a lot of folks do not see them as allies, but I do think it's a match made in heaven. You can say that opposites attract, and I think it's absolutely true in this circumstance. Machines are cold-hearted. They see things as black and white, whereas humans come into play and actually have that kind of a human aspect to it, kind of warmth, and also can help out in the gray areas. An example I can give, even just for how it is a match made in heaven, is actually in pharmacy, right? Like, we do a lot of work here at Virtual Operations with reconciling medications and helping pharmacists with that reconciliation, I should say. A lot of times it does feel like, hey, either AI or automation technologies will come in and just give you an answer for, hey, a patient should take a certain medication in a certain way. But, the doctor may come in and give that human aspect of, hey, that may be true, but, if the AI says intravenous is the best route, but the patient is definitely afraid of needles, right? Like, they cannot do it, and it's a PTA medication. They may say it's just as effective in another form, and then, it's a match made in heaven where they can work together, the machine and the human, to find the best medication and the best route for that patient. Another example here of how important the human aspect is here is recognizing flaws, right? I mean, machines know how to learn at times, even AI does, but sometimes there are very obvious flaws in the results. And when you have the human coming in and being that learned intermediary saying, hey, I can see that, I can pick up on that, we can fix that. It just further strengthens that that match where it's like, hey, the AI might be great, the technology might be great, but especially in today's day and age, it's not quite at a point yet where we can just trust it fully. And even when we do trust it fully, there should always be that person in the background coming in, giving advice, and making sure that the output is correct. Do want to make sure, though, that I'm not undervaluing the technology here. One more thing I want to talk about is just how much AI and automation right now are streamlining workflows, preventing burnout, increasing accuracy, doing all those things. But then, as kind of mentioned earlier as well, really increasing patient safety and at the end of the day, saving lives, right? One example I'll give there as well is there was recently an artificial intelligence that was, I believe, studying, actually administrative things where it's like, hey, how long are folks in beds in the hospital? And an AI realized that, a patient should be checked for sepsis. The doctors are a little bit confused because they're thinking, hey, this patient has not been diagnosed with that. But it turns out that the AI found a trend that after a certain amount of time in bed days, that increased the likelihood of sepsis for a patient. And doctors checked the patient, he had sepsis, and it saved his life. So it's another example of how important the AI portion is, but then also making sure that human factor is there. And then, of course, kind of rounding things here, out here, combining them is the perfect match.
I suppose that's the danger, isn't it? The over-reliance on technology, giving it attention or capabilities or trust that it may not deserve. And I think that, Jack, I've seen time and time again, great individual plus great technology combined together allows them to make greater decisions, because we are putting a lot of pressure on our medical staff to be perfect, and no one is perfect. John Sheehan, if I can come back to you as well, just leading on from what Jack was saying, there is technology and there is people, and healthcare organizations very often need to strike a balance between innovation and ethics when adopting artificial and generative AI technologies. How do they go about doing that successfully?
Yeah, it's a very important question, Kieran, and it's a tricky balancing act. If we look at the integration of AI into healthcare, it's certainly a testament to, our human ingenuity, and it's offered really, in my area of radiology, a huge opportunity to improve diagnostics, improve treatment, personalized care, and have overall operational efficiency improvements. But it certainly comes with a lot of ethical quandaries that we must consider, and we have to grapple with them. And they are the common ones that we're all familiar with, which is privacy, data protection, informed consent. And also, we can't allow it to exacerbate pre-existing social gaps or amplify them. So these are particularly acute in AI for diagnosis and treatment. And without a robust validation process, errors in the past can lead to medical problems in the future. What we do in healthcare, it's a very high stakes environment, and it's really critical that we get it right, because it has a direct impact on individuals and actually collectively at a public health level, and it can't be overstated. So let's try and consider a real life example. Cedars-Sinai Hospital in the US, AI is being used there to, in the early stages to assess patients with a risk for certain diagnoses. The ethical questions that are being posed by the algorithm performs equally well. The question is it for all patients, irregardless of what their age or race is? So it's really important when they're now adopting in Cedars-Sinai AI solutions that they ensure that the disadvantaged individual in the community is not exposed to less accurate or overestimated care needs. So what they've done actually is to develop a framework for good ethical use of AI. And this framework ensures that all of the various different AI systems, before they're actually deployed, are examined from an ethical and soundness perspective. And that's to promote equity and to deploy it with good professional and clinical oversight for its safe, effective, and equitable use. So it starts by identifying who might actually be impacted by this. So that's the patient, and look at all the various different whether it's their gender or their race or indeed their age, and to take steps then to mitigate any potential adverse effects. So over time, one has to evolve the healthcare monitoring systems to review and audit all the various inputs and outputs to ensure that they remain fair and sound. And as AI technology is adapted and it learns, it's imperative also that we actually keep a watchful eye on actually how it's improving and does it follow those guidelines and standards. So in conclusion, Kieran, whilst AI has huge power to transform healthcare, we must ensure that it's deployed in a very steadfastly ethical manner with good principles backing it up. There must be patient autonomy, there must be informed consent, we must maintain data privacy, and we must always be actively working to eliminate any of these potential biases that always exist. So I think by doing so, we can really harness the benefits of AI while upholding the trust and the well-being of patients and overall the broader community, Kieran.
And I think that's always the fear, isn't it, John? We hear words like ethics and then we panic a little bit and maybe delay actually putting technology into place. But there are, as you're describing, policies and methods and everything else that hospitals and healthcare providers can actually implement to guard themselves and their patients in particular in the right way. And for folks who are listening in, each of the people on this webinar post quite a lot on LinkedIn and on the company websites as well. It's always worth you following their content, and you'll start to see more of this rich, the rich talk, the rich answers, the rich thought leadership that they put out as well. Please follow each on LinkedIn. Folks, as well, to give you more value out of today's talk, don't forget, and I notice people are dialing in from all over the world, if you want, please put in your questions to ask the expert panel at the end. We'll come to those and try and get you the answers you need. If we run out of time, remember today is going to be short and snappy, then what we'll do is afterwards we'll get you the answers to the questions, asking each of the experts to provide those. John Kutay, I'm going to come back to you one moment, sir, as well, if you don't mind. But who are the leaders in this artificial intelligence, automation, and real-time analytics healthcare space? What do they do? How did they get there? Because I'm sure the audience is wondering, where do I actually put my finite dollars?
Absolutely. For one, the leaders are really the operators, the practitioners who are bold enough to challenge the art of the possible and see what they can push internally at their healthcare service providers to move the needle with data and AI for automation and better care operations. Now, that being said, there's certainly technology providers, consulting providers that can help them get there faster. We've seen so many great positive outcomes here at Striim, working with the largest healthcare service providers in the US, and seeing really how they move the needle internally with their healthcare operations and providing generative AI experiences to help streamline clinical workflows and also provide better optimization for workforce operations. Now, there's certainly a lot of great technology out there. There's obviously the big booming cloud service provider economy, and you're seeing more of the cloud providers provide vertical industry solutions for hospital systems and healthcare service providers, such as Google Cloud's Care Studio. We've seen a lot of success stories there. And then you have Snowflake also has a great healthcare cloud, and we've seen some successful outcomes there. And essentially with Striim in the picture, we do help those healthcare service providers get to the cloud faster and bring more workloads of production there. And for them to really, remain the leaders, it really does take, very responsible, ethical, you brought up the word, and also just having an innovative mindset and, not being shackled down by existing legacy software, but letting yourself really innovate faster by adopting the latest and greatest yet proven cloud software that's out there and the various solutions that are provided around that. So there's a lot of great case studies and success stories of hospital systems and healthcare service providers that have taken that leap and really done this work to create better and more personalized patient care while adding efficiencies to their internal operations.
The good news there is that this is real technology and working in the real world. That's what I'm hearing quite strongly. Jack, if I could come back to you, I'm sure there's people listening online wondering whether they jump now or wait, and numbers will have potentially fallen behind in the artificial intelligence and automation race. What advice would you give to them?
That's a great question. And for advice I would give to them is, I think it's a great idea to start now. I think technology is advancing. In the next few years, we should see some major leaps in both AI and other automation technologies. But if you implement now, you can save now and then enhance later. And I think that's a great way to go. And also understand that it's not too late. For anyone thinking, oh well, my system's working fairly well and I'm already falling behind. I don't think I maybe should jump in right now. It's definitely not a bad idea to start looking into this and start really trying to see, okay, how can automation help our organization? I think a great way to do this as well, though, is to really set up a framework and make sure that you're not just automating to automate. You're not just jumping in because you think, hey, there's a ton of craze on this right now. So really, you should figure out, okay, what is your organizational goal that you're going to use this technology for? And then once you have that goal and you figure out, okay, I know what I want to do here, I'd highly recommend obtaining advice from experts, whether that's in-house or externally. At VO, we help many organizations with making sure that they don't make mistakes that might seem obvious until you actually start implementing. So definitely better to start from experience there. And then also do want to give some credit here to Striim as well. They have a ton of experience with artificial intelligence and also making sure that data gets from point A to point B efficiently. Once you really have that, that goal and you know who you're working with to really help out with your organization, I think you need to determine the suitability of the automation technology. So, example is if you want to automate something to reduce denials, it might be a repetitive workflow. And in that case, you might want to use robotic process automation or RPA instead of AI. Whereas if you're going to, prevent a disease, kind of talked about a little bit earlier in this presentation as well, then AI may come into effect because it can actually learn, it can investigate and give you better results rather than, being what we know as a robot where it's extremely repetitive. And then once you have all that laid out, finally, you're going to want to determine your technology provider. VO has experience with many technology providers and can help with really making sure that you are using the right one. But even if you use another consulting firm or internal experts, having the right partner from a technology perspective is extremely important. And then lastly, final recommendation here, establish a group within your organization dedicated to the automation technology, because this is going to help with making sure that everything runs smoothly when you start implementing. And on top of that, will help with the educational factor. Because I think to keep things ethical, to make sure that you're doing things the right way, everyone needs to be informed. Everyone needs to know how the technology works, what the limitations are, and all this will also help prevent what's called a black box concern, which means that many folks will just see the technology and say, hey, it works. I don't know how, but it's working, right? And we don't want that. That's never a good thing, because then folks can either lose trust or they just feel like, hey, if something breaks, they're not in a great spot, when in reality, there is a method to the madness. There is a way that it works. People just need to be more informed. So kind of rounding things back once again here, I'd highly recommend implementing now, making sure that you start saving today, and then making sure you establish a solid framework when you do implement now.
Again, good advice on the basis that you wonder when is the right time to start. But the best advice I've ever heard, Jack, is tomorrow is the wrong time to implement. It's too late. Final question, because we're going to be really strict on time today. What expert advice would you like to leave the audience with? John Kutay, if you wouldn't mind starting with you, sir.
Absolutely. First off, work backwards from the business problem. Make sure that the data and AI capabilities that you're providing are really purpose-built to meet the business objectives of your healthcare service provider or hospital system, whether you're trying to improve certain metrics around efficiencies internally or overall patient outcomes.
Jack, if we come to you now, what advice would you give? Final advice to the audience to send them away with new knowledge, something that they can take action on.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes back to what I was going off of a moment ago, is just making sure you do not wait. Start doing your research today, because as you said, tomorrow is too late. And just make sure you're partnering with the right folks and establishing a plan and executing that plan well. and making sure that you use the right technology for whatever your goal is when you're looking to automate things.
John, we started with you. We'll end with you. What final advice would you like to give the audience?
Well, I'd like, Kieran, to put out a call to everybody in the audience and leave you with a story to try and humanize what we're talking about here today. I want you to imagine a physician named Dr. Emily Woods, and she's working in a really busy city hospital. She's very passionate about her work, but she's completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data that every day she needs to sift through. And she's not alone. Everybody is going through this common scenario of professionals worldwide. And we're all caught in this doom loop of data overload. It's leading to stress, diagnostic errors, and declining patient outcomes, despite the explosion of all these AI solutions. So what is the actual solution to this? Well, there are beacons of hope. And I think it's really that we can try and become much more efficient and accurate and improve that patient care. The key thing here, I think, is human-centered design, a bit like, as I said earlier on, Apple, with these principles of foundational modeling, focusing on designs that are people first, solve fundamental problems, and employ system-level thinking for global optimization for all of us. I think if Dr. Emily Woods has access to a system design like that, where there's a 3D dashboard type flow, the experience she will have, along with this cloud capabilities that are AI enabled, akin to having Google Maps to navigate through a very complex patient decision pathway system, that will really allow a flywheel opportunity for new capabilities for all of the various different stakeholders. And I don't think it's a dream, I think it's a feasible future, but we really have to focus on this human-centered design and mend that decision-making link that, as I said, is currently broken and it's really under significant strain. And we just want to empower clinicians like Dr. Emily Woods to make informed decisions, reduce the stress, and improve the patient outcome. So I think as you leave this webinar, folks, I'd like to encourage you to think about how you can contribute to the future, whether you're a healthcare professional, a technologist, or simply someone who's just interested in the future of healthcare. Your actions and your advocacy can make a significant difference. So let's work together. Kieran, thanks for bringing us all together. Let's create a healthcare system that's not only a high-tech system, but, as I like to say, high-tech and high-touch, where really technology serves to enhance human decision-making and patient care. So remember, the journey to transformation in healthcare or any industry is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And it will require our patience, collaboration, and a clear, relentless focus on human elements, which is what we're all about. People, physicians, and patients. Thanks, Kieran.
Beautifully put. I think sometimes people get too excited by the technology and forget the real people behind this, and people plus great tech equal even better solutions. And I think that's a message that's come through today quite strongly. The other message was, look, this is real technology. This isn't pie in the sky stuff that doesn't exist. It exists today to help, and it exists in a really ethical manner. And if you're unsure how to do it, there are experts out there to give you that helping hand. The other thing we heard today was, look, don't wait until tomorrow. There's no point waiting and waiting and waiting. Now is an opportune time because the technology is there. It's only going to get better than anything else. And the demand, and you've heard that from everyone, is there today to create better patient outcomes and to make life that little bit more enjoyable, that little bit more peaceful, for want of a better phrase, that little bit more workable for healthcare professionals today. Look, thank you to all of our panelists today. Folks, please take the opportunity to follow each of them on LinkedIn. As I mentioned earlier on, they produce fantastic content in articles and web forms and videos and blogs that you can learn from and grow from. As I mentioned earlier on today, look, for everybody who's been on the webinar today, we'll send you unique articles, we'll send you white papers, we'll send you a recording of this video. We'll send you a video of the Striim application working in live so that you can start to gain some of the knowledge the panelists have been talking about today. Look, thank you for attending today. Thank you for VOps and Striim for putting the presentation on. I wish everyone a happy and healthy and safe rest of the day, and we'll see you all soon at our next webinar. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience.